For decades, coal mining in the UK was the backbone of the economy and stimulated regions including the north of England, the Midlands, Wales and Scotland by employing hundreds of thousands of people. There is evidence of coal mining in Yorkshire dating back to the Roman era. However, it was in the 19th century, with the onset of the Industrial Revolution, that coal mining became a major industry in which many villages and towns, the coal mine became the chief source of labour and income for many Yorkshire families. To speak of coal mining and conservation in one sentence just doesn't seem compatible. But just a stone's throw from the centre of Leeds is one such example. St Aidan's RSPB Nature Reserve is a stunning place to explore. It officially opened as a reserve in April 2017. The reserve covers a massive 400 hectares. To visit St Aidan's will take you on a journey through diverse landscapes and natural beauty, but it hasn't always been that way. Today in Prayers from the Park, I'm going to be exploring what happened to make this nature reserve a place of woodland glades, whispering reed beds, lakes and ponds. A nature reserve with stunning panoramic views. We'll also be thinking about St Brigid, who's the second patron saint of Ireland, a saint who has something in common with St Aidan's in Leeds. In March 1988, there was a mining disaster in the St Aidan's open cast mine, as it was known then. The site was catastrophically flooded after the River Aire burst its banks and thousands of gallons of water flooded into the mine. A slope failure on the banks of the River Aire was to blame, resulting in a massive flood. RAF Chinook helicopters were used to ferry sandbags into the breach, but it didn't stop the water cascading in. The flood grew and grew and grew. It was spectacular. It took 4 days for the floodwater to fill the mine workings. The resultant deluge created a lake that was 250 acres in size and 230 feet deep. The water was pumped out, and this was the beginnings of what we see today at St Aidan's Nature Reserve. There are just 900 reed beds left in the UK, and of those, only 50 are over 20 hectares in size. St Aidan's is one of them. The reed beds are really quite special, and I'm going to tell you why. The reed beds cover nearly 60 hectares of the nature reserve, and the RSPB are working very hard to make sure it stays that way. Reed beds are at constant risk of succumbing to scrub and woodland, so the RSPB have to keep them at bay. By doing so, they're helping to protect one of the most important habitats for birds in the UK. Bittern, marsh harriers and bearded tits are just a few of the rare birds that breed exclusively in the reed beds, and without them they'd be in danger of going extinct. And it's not just birds. The reed beds are home to a whole host of wildlife, so you could get a glimpse of something really special if you visit St. Aidan's. Saint Brigid of the Wetlands, the second patron saint of Ireland. Saint Brigid was a close friend of Saint Patrick. It is said that Saint Brigid went to the King of Leinster requesting land for an abbey. She had found the spot, land that was in need of developing and landscaping, but land that could be turned into a place of beauty. The king refused, and Brigid prayed that he might change his mind. She asked the king, "Will you give me as much land as my cloak will cover?" The king, looking at Brigid's small cloak, laughed and agreed. Brigid began to spread her cloak on the ground. 4 friends held a corner of the cloak and started walking north, south, east and west. The cloak grew and grew, and like a flood covered acres of land, just like the cascading water at St. Aidan's. When the king saw this, he realized Brigid was indeed a holy woman, and he offered her food and supplies. The king converted to Christianity and began to help the poor and bring justice to the needy. The miracle of the cloak was the first of Brigid's many miracles. The flood of your love, a prayer in honour of Saint Brigid of the Wetlands. Lord Jesus Christ, bring the flood of your love where there is conflict, light to the darkness, hope to the downcast. May your cloak of peace flood those who are troubled and anxious, and may peace be firmly rooted in our hearts and in our world. Inspire us to act with love and peace, and make us a voice for the wounded and the weary. In the name of Christ. Amen.